All right, so we're just below here, and they want us to identify um, special segments and lines, and they give us this picture that has a lot going on here. Um, but I'm going to see if we can't go ahead and just already describe maybe some of these things using the vocab terms above, and then we'll see if maybe that'll help us to fill in the blanks. Fill in the blanks. But before I do that, I want you to go ahead and pause this video. So go ahead and pause it, and when you do, go ahead and try and answer the questions next to this picture. Go ahead and answer the questions next to this picture. Then we'll go ahead and try and describe some of these things before I give you the answers to the questions next door. So go ahead, pause this video, try to answer the questions. All right, well, I'm assuming that you paused the video and that you've come back. So now we're just going to try and maybe break down these circles and see if we can't tell ourselves and predict what each of these things are. Right? So maybe the easiest one to find is like C. Well, we know that that's a center point. Right? That's a center point. That's easy. G over here, we can tell that's a center as well. I mean, CH, this thing here is a radius for sure, and AD, right, it goes through the center point, that's a diameter. All right, well, G has some radiuses as well. Okay, so, just knowing what we know about circles before we even come in, we can already tell some things about these circles. Well, what about AB over here? Well, this segment AB, that would be, I guess, a chord, right? Because it kind of looks like a diameter, but it doesn't go through the center. It touches at 2 points. But it's actually part of this whole line. So line AB, well, that's a secant. That's a secant. If it goes through the circle and touches at 2 points, it's a secant. What about over here, this line here? Well, FH. That's interesting. It only touches at 1 point down here, if you see that. So also we notice it makes this perpendicular angle. We're actually going to talk about that in a minute, but it touches only at 1 point. Well, that's a tangent line. And interestingly, we see that it's tangent to this circle and it's tangent to this circle. So that's actually a common tangent with 2 M's. Interesting. Well, what about down here? Here's DE. Here's another line. Well, that is tangent to both of these circles too. So this is a common tangent too. And I think by now we've named everything, right? So let's see if we can't go back and look at the questions over here and see if we can't name some of these pieces. Well, CD, right? CD is over here. It's half of this diameter, so we know that that's a radius. That's a radius. And E, or I mean letter E, but they're asking for what is point C, right? Point C is a center point. That's pretty easy. Pretty easy one so far. D, oh, I don't think we talked about D, but D is a point on the circle where a tangent intersects. So it is a point of tangency down here, letter D. AD, we did talk about. AD is here. It's a diameter. Right? Line FH. Line FH. So here's F and here's H. This whole line, well, it's a tangent. And we even went a little bit further and said it was a common tangent as well. And line AB, well, that's a secant. It's a secant, right? Well, then interestingly, we also talked about this. This piece right here, AB, if it's a line segment, well, this is going to be a chord. And remember, we talked about that was the main difference between a chord and a secant, was that the chords are line segments, but the secants are lines. And then last but not least is line DE. And that's this line down here, which we said was a tangent, but it was actually a common tangent. So just to get credit for this part of the notes, would you please, for letter H, write common tangent, but do not write it for letter C. So don't write it here, but do write it for line DE, common tangent.